Right, well, good evening, everybody. I've sort of, unfortunately, got to follow on from 3 awesome talks, so I will try and do my best. I'm not usually as miserable as I am in that photograph, by the way, but I am wearing the same suit, which is quite embarrassing, but there we go. So I'm going to talk about technology in the classroom and what the future holds. Now, my first experience of technology in the classroom was when I was in primary school, and we had a BBC Micro in primary school. Now, in order to use this BBC Micro, you had to finish all the maths tasks. I was never that good at maths, so unfortunately I never actually got to use it in the classroom, which was kind of upsetting, but... oh, I need this clicker. But there we go. But things have obviously moved on a long way from now. So just a little bit about me. So my name's Britland. I'm Director of Realise Learning, which is an educational consultancy. And I'm also Head of ICT at Kingston Grammar School, which isn't too far away, until January, and then I'm taking on another role. So the lovely thing about talking about education is that everyone's been in the classroom and everyone's been to school. So this is basically where the classroom is at the moment. So for me, it's a really, really exciting time for schools. The technology used in the classrooms is evolving, it's changing, and schools and educational institutions are really trying to embrace new technology and think about new ways in which to use it. Some schools in particular are really pushing the boundaries. Esset Academy in Bolton, for instance, which has been in the papers and on the BBC quite a lot, they have a one-to-one initiative for students and parents. Now, what that means is every student and every teacher in that school has been given an iPad. So they've got rid of textbooks, they've got rid of normal books, they've got rid of paper completely altogether, and everything is done, all teaching and all learning is done using an iPad. Some people aren't so sure about that, but that's what's happening. That's happening in a number of different schools as well. It's obviously very, very expensive, so not everyone can do that. The problem with that, and in a lot of schools, is that the focus tends to be on the device. So the focus tends to be on, right, let's just get loads of iPads because they're cool and that's what people are using nowadays. And actually, sometimes they lose focus about what that technology is for and what the device is for. And the device is there to support teaching and learning. So if you're buying all these cool devices and this technology, but don't really know how to use it or why you're buying it in the first place, for me, it's kind of a bit of a waste of time. And sometimes I think it's done to please the governors or parents, just to say, look, we've got all this stuff in, we're doing really cool things. And that isn't always the case. And as well, educational technology is fragmented. I mean, it very much depends on what area you live in, what school you're in, how much money that school's got, what sort of extra sponsors those schools have got. So across the whole country, there's all sorts of different things going on all over the place. And people are experimenting. We don't really know how these things are going to pan out. So lots of different things are happening, lots of different schools, and it isn't always tying together. Another thing as well, as I said before, schools are buying technology that they don't really need. And a lot of that happens because there are people in schools who don't necessarily know what they want and why they want it. So you have some companies going, come on, we can sell you a big bunch of clickers. Do you remember Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And then you vote with those little clicker things. Okay? So that is really old technology. But schools are still buying it, going, oh, wow, this can really change lessons and this can do this, that, and the other. But actually, an iPod Touch would do exactly the same thing. But it has a lot of other uses. So because some schools don't know exactly what they want, they're just going, oh, yeah, we'll just buy all this, we'll just buy all this. And they don't necessarily need it, and that's obviously taking resources from other places. This is a bit of a bugbear for me, and a lot of schools are very protective about what students can access on the internet. Now, obviously, there are some things we don't want students to access, but things are locked down in some schools in such a way that actually they can't access some information that they want to access. So, for instance, if you're doing a PSHE lesson and you're doing something about sex and relationships, you pretty much can't find anything. There's no kind of independent study that students can do because it's all filtered. And also some web browsers that we're forced to use, like Internet Explorer. Does anyone use Internet Explorer now, by the way? on their computers? Anyone? Any Internet Explorer users? Okay. It's actually the third most popular browser now. A little bit of a geeky fact for you. Chrome, Firefox, and Internet Explorer. But loads of schools just use Internet Explorer. And a lot of websites are actually designed to be used on other browsers, so sometimes they don't work properly. But schools are like, no, 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 it's a Microsoft product, we've got Microsoft software, so we're just going to stick with it. And that restricts access to certain websites, actually, because they don't function properly. So there are a lot of challenges for schools at the moment. First of all, is having the right people in charge. So are the people in charge teachers? Do they know ways in which technology can be used for teaching and learning, or are they IT managers who just buy the technology that they're sold by other companies? And I think it's really, really important that the people leading this are teachers and not IT managers, because we know how it works in schools. We use this technology for teaching and learning, so I think we're probably in the best place to sort of make those decisions. There's also a digital divide, and that goes back to different schools. And not every pupil in every school is going to have the money to buy devices at home. They might not be able to have access to the internet. Some schools, again, have loads of money, so their kids have got loads of this technology that they can use and they can engage with. And other schools don't. And there's that massive digital divide that is splitting the school system. And of course, there are a lot of skeptical parents as well. They don't necessarily want their students, their kids, sorry, to be engaging with technology all the time. And I kind of get that, and it's getting that sort of happy medium. And for us as well as teachers. So our role is changing, okay? It isn't simply not good enough to just talk to kids. They need to be able to find information from elsewhere. They don't necessarily need us as much as they used to. You know, we should be turning into more facilitators and encouraging students to learn on their own and just being there to help when necessary. Because otherwise, what's happening is we just tell them stuff, and that's it. We spoon feed them information, and actually we want them to be independent and be able to learn on their own. Because, of course, when they get into the workplace, that is what they're going to have to do. So that is what I feel education is like at the moment. It's a bit of a generalisation, because I've not been in every single school, but you kind of get the picture. So how is it going to change, or how do I see it changing in 2018? Well, like I said, the future technology in the classroom is not about a specific device. So, you know, the iPads and other mobile technology, which is used, is the go-to technology at the moment, is the now. It's what technology we're using now. And going back to Moore's law and the way technology is changing, we don't know what's going to be that go-to device in the future. So about 4 years ago, there was no iPads. There are other tablet computers, but they didn't really work very well. How many of you have got iPads or tablet computers, just out of interest? This could seriously backfire, by the way. Okay, so I would like to say that that's probably the majority of the room. You know, and this technology didn't exist 4 years ago. You've got a use for your iPad or your tablet, but 4 years ago you didn't think that was a problem in the first place. But you know what I mean? So, but now you're using it, now it's something that I would like to say I can't do without, actually, because I use it all the time more than my computer. So, the school of 2018, in my eyes, is going to be about access. Access for students, access for parents, access for teachers. It's going to be about learning anywhere. It isn't just going to be, you're in the classroom, so this is what you're learning now, or you can only learn if you're in a certain place. It needs to be about collaboration. We spoke about collaboration before, and it's important that rather than just being insular in your school, you're collaborating globally with other schools in different countries, locally with schools in your area. That sometimes doesn't actually happen. So moving with technology, I mean, educational institutions, so universities, schools, colleges, you know, they're going to have traditional students like we've all been used to. But they will have online-only students as well. That is where I think it might go. So rather than just the students that come into your classroom, you'll have students that will access your learning resources and their teaching from anywhere they are. And that's actually, for me, really, really exciting. Things are already moving that way as we speak. So there's disruptive services like MOOCs and educational social networks like Edmodo. And Modo is a free social networking site for education. It looks like Facebook, but actually it's used in education to collect work, to hand out work, to have forums, and for a safe environment for students to communicate with others, including the teacher. Now, MOOCs are a fairly new thing, and they're in the press a lot. And what they stand for is a massive open online course. And Schoolology is an example of that. And what that means is there are hundreds and thousands of free courses from big universities like Cambridge University, Yale, Harvard, all over the world that will offer their courses for free for anyone to use. So you don't have to be at that university or that college to be able to access all that information and to get an education. So the future for me is going to be about the cloud. That's where I think we're heading, and we're on our way there already. So some people struggle with what the cloud is. And in the simplest terms, cloud computing means storing and accessing data and programs over the internet. So some people just say, so just the internet then? I was like, yeah. Okay, so the internet, but it's got a fancy name, okay, so it sounds different. But yes, across the internet. For me, technology can be a barrier to teaching and learning, okay, because it all depends on where you live, how much money you've got, what you can access, what devices you've got. And, you know, in theory, the cloud can remove that barrier. You can be in rural parts of England or any other country for that matter. And if you have access to the internet, and we'll come on to that later, then you can access anything you want. If you have a disability and you're not active and you can't go to universities or schools as easily, then this can solve that problem. So in that respect, you know, educational institutions are going to need one thing in my eyes. And that is a fast, robust internet connection. So everybody is going to have to be online. All schools are going to have to be online, and they're going to have to invest in infrastructure. So rather than going, let's just buy 500 iPads and spend tens and thousands of pounds, let's think ahead a little bit. I think actually, these iPads are going to need to access the cloud, and therefore we need to invest in that first before we do anything else. So basically, we don't know what the new device is going to be. I mean, in 5 years' time, who knows? I'm sure tablets are going to be around, but I don't know what kind of form they're going to take. But whatever we have, they are going to have to access the internet, and they are going to have to access applications and what have you on there. So schools now need to future-proof their infrastructure. They can't avoid it anymore. They need to get involved with that. And also, access to the web is going to need more freedom, and that scares a lot of people. A lot of people are terrified. No, we've got to hide the internet from kids because it's a terrifying place. Actually, all kids need is education, and they need to be educated about the internet and its dangers and its positives. And that is starting to trickle through in schools. The media doesn't help because they terrify parents and terrify teachers at the same time. So the cloud is also going to allow schools to have access to different apps, for instance, different applications. So you can have one cloud service you can use for one reason, another cloud service to use something else. You can use a whole different range of applications online. So schools are not just going to have to go, we've got Microsoft products, that's the way it is. We've got Microsoft Office, and you're going to have to deal with that because that's the way it is. Don't need to do that anymore. In theory, the students can decide what application is best to use. So, for instance, if I've got to do a presentation in my classroom, I won't say, you're using this, you're using that. I say, this is what you've got to do. Choose the best service for you to meet the objectives. And you've got a class with all sorts of different things, and it's very rarely PowerPoint, which makes me happy, to be honest with you. So basically, schools can decide what's best for them rather than it being dictated to, and that's where the role of an IT manager changes. So they won't, or they shouldn't specify to all staff and all students that you're using this and there's no other choice. So if we talk about work, for instance, students are going to be able to hand in work online from anywhere in the world, in theory, as long as they've got the internet. Teachers are going to be able to set work online and mark work wherever they are. It could be on the train, it could be on the beach, wherever, do you know what I mean? Wherever they are. And it's going to change the whole culture of the classroom. It's no longer going to be, right, let's get a piece of paper, red pen, which actually I don't think we're even allowed to use red pen anymore, to be honest with you, but it's negative. It's too negative. Seriously. So it's going to change everything, and a lot of teachers are going to struggle with this. But you can imagine the power of it. I mean, I've been doing this for about 2 years, actually, but I don't speak for the majority of teachers. It used to be that when a student hands in work, they have to then wait for you to be in the classroom next, to then hand the piece of work back with the comments on. And students want that stuff now. They want it instantly. So as soon as I've got the work in, I've marked it, they have a grade straight away, they have a comment straight away, and if they need to make an improvement, they can do it then and there, wherever they are. And actually, they really, really like that, and they genuinely want it. Okay, so these are some example services. You can see Google Drive over here. Google Apps, for me, is fantastic. I know it sounds weird going from Microsoft to Google, and you can say what you will, but Google Drive and Google Apps are really cool. And what they can do that you can't do on local software is collaboration. So you can have a student in different parts of in different houses, different countries in theory, and they can all collaborate on one document and talk about it while they're doing it. And that is really powerful and something that a few years ago just wasn't possible. And if we're going to encourage students to work independently, away from the teacher, collaborating with other students is really, really important. Okay, so this is where the devices come in. So there are still going to be devices. Mobile devices like iPads or smartphones, wearable devices like Google Glass. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with that. I mean, next year, I think they plan to actually sell it to the public. So there are a whole range of different devices and also motion sensing devices as well. I bought myself an Xbox One on Friday. A bit geeky possibly, but I did. And it's got a new Kinect sensor, which is motion control. And if you can imagine, you've got motion control in the classroom, the teacher can augment what's going on the board wherever they are, and they can, you can imagine a 3D model of a skeleton or a heart or anything like that, and they can, the students can augment what they're seeing on screen with their hands from wherever they are in the classroom, and I think that's really cool. So these devices are going to have to access the cloud, and I think students are going to have an individual device by that time. So the classroom of 2018 is going to change. So thanks to the cloud and mobile devices, technology is going to be integrated across the whole classroom. So it isn't going to be, right, we've got to do something, let's go to an IT classroom and get it done. It doesn't matter where you are. You could be in the schoolyards, you could be on the field, doesn't matter where, you could be at home, doesn't matter. Everywhere is going to be able to access technology. And schools, hopefully, will become paperless for the majority of the time. Photocopying bills and printing costs in schools are astronomical. Astronomical. And environmentally as well, it just isn't good. And printers are a pain. I mean, I'm sure you've all used a printer at some point. I hate them so much, it's unbelievable, because they never work when you want them to. So I gave up paper 2 years ago, and I'm never going back. So basically, the world is going to be our classroom. That sounds really cheesy. I understand that, but it's real. That's what it's going to be like, because we're going to have e-learning, okay? And that's going to change the way we teach and the way students learn. So students can learn from anywhere, teachers can teach from anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. And that changes the whole idea of what a school is or where schools are as far as buildings are concerned. So it doesn't matter where you live, and that will help to go a long way to removing a digital divide. Because you can get cheap devices now. Tesco sell a tablet for 100 quid. Still expensive for some people, but you can see it's getting cheaper. So it doesn't matter what your disability, it doesn't matter where you live, it doesn't matter how much money you've got. You should, in theory, be able to access teaching and learning from anywhere. It doesn't matter, I can't leave my family or my mum because she's, she can't be left alone for whatever reason. I'm her carer. It doesn't matter. You can still study at university at home, online or at school or whatever you decide to do. So I think this is the last slide, and I'll stop talking. So achieving this vision, so how are we going to do that? Well, first of all, the whole country is going to need fast broadband, super fast broadband. It can no longer just be in the city. It needs to be throughout the whole country. Everyone needs to access it, and the government need to invest in this sort of infrastructure. Like I mentioned before, schools are going to need a director of ICT, or a director of digital strategy who is going to be able to drive this. They are the best people, the best placed people in a school to make decisions that are going to affect teachers and students. And what I think is really important is that tech companies need to work with us. Apple, for instance, got great devices, but they're so expensive, and they basically don't offer a discount for schools. They don't make it easy for us to engage with that sort of technology. And it would be nice if they actually came into schools and talked to us and said, what do your students want? What do you want? How can we help? Rather than just going, we're just going to sell you this really expensive device and not give you as much support as you probably deserve. And also things like, what are they going to do with our data? If you're using the cloud, where's that data stored? Where's it going to go? Is it safe? And obviously, with all the stuff that's been in the news at the moment, can we trust people like Google or Microsoft or whoever else to store our data and keep it safe? So students and teachers are going to need to have more freedom and access in schools. The way teachers think of the classroom and schools is going to have to change. We can't be stuck in the past. We need to accept that technology is here to stay. It's going to get more advanced and it's going to get better and better. And we need to accept that and embrace it. Not run away from it, not be scared of it, just accept it and work with it and use it and learn how to use it. Collaboration with other schools. So there is a digital divide. Not all schools have the same expertise or technology. And the way schools work at the moment is that you're competing against each other. So there are league tables. So you want to have better results than the school next door. Is that the best way to run education? Should it be that we're thinking about all students in all schools rather than just these individual students in these schools? And I think if schools can work together and try and just forget about the league tables for a second, understand that they're there, but talk and collaborate. The private schools need to talk to state schools and vice versa. And we basically need to work together for the benefit of students and teachers. And teachers, again, sorry, I'm going over all ground here, need to, they need to buy into the use of technology for teaching and learning. So they need to feel empowered by it, and that's what technology can do. It can empower you. And in order for that to happen, teachers need to be trained. It's no good just throwing devices at them and going, these are awesome, crack on. They need to be trained. They need to feel like they have ownership over this technology. Otherwise, when they get in front of a classroom, they're going to be scared and they're not going to want to use it. And of course, there's parental concerns about screen time. There's a documentary on ITV today about it, apparently. And parents are worried that kids are just on their phones all the time, on their iPads, or another tablet, not just an iPad, or on TV or a computer, whatever it is. And that is a real concern. But I mean, from my point of view, is if it starts at an early age, technology is great, but they still have to go out and play. Still encourage them to go outside, take them to do sports, it's up to parents and teachers to encourage them and make sure that happens, so they're not just stuck in a computer on a device all day. They can go out and they need to spend time outside. And that is my vision for Class Summer 2018. I think it's achievable, and I think it would be really good for the benefit of teachers and students. Anyway, thank you very much.